And now, it's time for the GameSHOUT technology news and reviews. Taking your questions live, the GameSHOUT Technology Show.
And welcome back to GameSHOUT Radio. You're listening to Science This Week with your hosts, Soulrift and Jadri.
Welcome back. Yes, this is the Science Weekly Show. Hey, Jadri, how are you doing?
Pretty good. And you, Soulrift?
Oh, I'm doing great. You know, we've got a pretty fun show all wrapped up. We've been playing around with a little fun substance called Aerogel, which is, you know, really cool stuff. It's made out of the same thing as glass, but given how light it is, you really wouldn't believe it, eh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, of course, we have to jump in with the top science news, and that, you know, given the flu season, it has to be another bird flu story. And sure enough, a dead cat on the German Baltic island of Rügen has been found carrying the H5N1 bird flu virus. This finding confirms the results of a Dutch study in 2005 showing that cats can catch the virus, and suggests that they may need to be included in efforts to control the spread of the virus in animals. So last week or the week before, we reported a dead duck in France, now a dead cat in Germany. This virus does seem to be spreading throughout Europe, further and further into the east, and that's a bigger and bigger problem for a lot of local health officials. Now, no other flu virus has ever been observed to affect cats. But the Z genotype of H5N1 that has been killing people in East Asia can kill cats of several species. Now, some colleagues at the Erasmus University in the Netherlands had found that cats could catch it by eating infected dead birds and then even pass it on to other cats. So, in fact, in October 2004, about a quarter of the tigers at a tiger zoo near Bangkok, Thailand, died of H5N1 they caught from eating infected chicken carcasses left by the massive poultry outbreak of H5N1, then affecting Thailand. The disease also killed a zoo leopard. So, you know, the virus is just getting worse and worse, spreading further around into Europe, affecting more species. It's the first time it's hit cats, and of course a lot of us have pet cats. I mean, we've even got a pet cat here in the studio, don't we?
Yeah, Andy's, wandering cat.
It was our hurricane refugee.
Well, yeah, it was a hurricane refugee, but it wandered in during the hurricanes, and, well, it just doesn't seem to have left. Yeah, I think it likes Andy for some reason. Yeah, usually during the show, yeah.
I named him Mr. Whiskers.
Well,
Mr. Whiskers?
Yeah.
You gotta be kidding.
He also has a name for a little bit of aerogel too, but
Oh, wait a minute. What's that?
I'll let Soulrift share it.
Oh, come on. Be nice, tell me.
Fliv.
Fliv?
Yeah.
Fliv? What is Fliv?
Huh? It's a name.
Well, there's Jadri's creative muscles at work naming our cat. He's named our bit of aerogel. Hopefully he won't go naming our Mormon crickets. Yes.
Wait.
Mormon crickets.
What's the difference between a regular cricket and a Mormon cricket?
Well,
Multiple
Mormon
lives.
cricket. They'll eat each other.
Wait a minute. What are you talking about?
All right, now Anabrus simplex, they're large, flightless grasshopper-like insects, and they're not true crickets.
Right. In fact, they plagued the crops of. That's why they're called Mormon crickets, because they plagued the crops of early Utah when the LDS, the Mormons, first resided in Utah, and in answer to prayer, there were seagulls that ended up showing up, eating up all these crickets. But
exactly. You see.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, millions of them sometimes march together with dozens of insects per square meter, moving up to 2 kilometers a day and covering an area up to 10 kilometers long. Now, these marching troops of omnivorous, keyword omnivorous insects can cause serious crop damage, but unlike locusts, the Mormon cricket do not devour all the plants in the landscape. They're actually rather picky eaters. So, curious to see if what they would eat. Stephen Simpson at the University of Sydney, Australia, studied the crickets with Greg Sword at the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Research Service, and they placed samples of different foods rich in different elements on a cattle trail in the path of the marching insects. Now, the crickets showed a clear preference for protein-containing food, and they also went after salt. So, you see, these foraging crickets, they all actually prefer protein-rich food sources such as seeds, flower heads, and carrion. But if there's not enough to go around, they'll go from eating for the food to eating each other. You see, these Mormon crickets, they're actually walking packages of protein and salt. And any of them that stop to have and eat weigh the risks of having another cricket stop and eating them.
Hey, look, think about it. Imagine how much protein they could provide in the normal diet.
Well, I don't know if you're going to head out and give up your deer hunting to start hunting crickets, but and I'm not sure how well a bow and arrow would work on one of these things. I can just imagine you trying to pin an arrow into a little cricket.
No, I don't use arrows when hunting crickets. I use a tomahawk. And a spatula.
Oh no. Well, okay, here's the thing. Despite the fact that these cannibalistic crickets are likely to be eaten by each other, they'll still swarm together because they're less likely to be eaten by another cricket than they are to be eaten by a bird or another larger animal. In fact, those crickets that do try to fend for themselves on their own, almost all of them end up being eaten by larger prey animals. So,
seagulls, which, by the way, I think is why the quote-unquote Mormon cricket is drawn to the Salt Lake area of Utah.
They like the salt, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, here's the final bit of warning here. These things will eat almost anything that they can get their claws on, including each other, and including a person. So, if a person is in motion... yeah, it's true. If a person is in motion and running away, the crickets probably won't bother them. But if you're just lying down in front of them, maybe you're asleep in the middle of one of these cattle trails, there's just a horror movie in here somewhere.
Oh, man, it's definitely a horror movie waiting to happen. Definitely coming up.
Oh my. Well, while you contemplate and digest that little morsel of science, we've got to take a quick break.
Oh, digest a morsel? Oh.
When we come back, there's a whole lot more science here on GameSHOUT Radio right after this.
You're listening to GameSHOUT Radio. Want to know what's so revolutionary about the Nintendo Revolution? Don't worry, GameSHOUT's all over that. Gamepad Gamer's Nintendo Revolution Edition mini podcast gives you all you ever wanted to know about the Nintendo Revolution and more. Do we have Revolution news? Of course we do, buddy. How about game reviews? Was there ever any doubt? Previews of those mysterious games? No problem, man. So be sure to find out about the games, news, previews, and reviews that matter from the only gaming site that really, really matters. You got it. GameSHOUT.com.
And welcome back to GameSHOUT Radio. This is the Science Weekly program with your host Soulrift and my frivolous co-host Jadri.
Hey, everybody.
No, your Flivian co-host.
Yes, sorry, my Flivian co-host.
Look, the other day he was calling that paste that you put on CPUs, he was calling it CPU boogers.
I was not.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, don't lie to me.
But it's silver.
I know, silver CPU boogers. Yeah, he was. He was covering his nose with it before he goes to the beach.
Well, turning our eyes down from the beach to way up in the sky, guess what? Our night sky could soon be lit up with gigantic three-dimensional advertisements, thanks to a Japanese laser display that creates glowing images in thin air. Yes.
Oh my.
The system is being developed by the National Institute of Advanced Industrial Science and Technology in Tokyo in collaboration with Burton Inc. and Keio University. Now, this technology, the way it works is it utilizes an ionization effect which occurs when a beam of laser light is focused to a point in the air. The laser beam itself is invisible to the human eye, but the intensity of the laser pulse exceeds a threshold, then the air breaks down into a glowing plasma that emits visible light. Now, the required intensity of laser energy can only be achieved by a very, very short but very powerful laser pulses. Now, each plasma dot or flashpoint lasts only about a nanosecond, but the resulting image appears to last longer due to the persistence of vision. It's the same idea of when you watch a film at 30 frames per second. It seems to be a single moving image, even though there's only 30 static images. You know, the eye builds all these static images together and makes it into a movie. So this pulsing of plasma, which happens about 100 times a second, can actually create three-dimensional moving figures in thin air. Now, the demonstration system, it uses an infrared laser, and it creates 100 flashpoints per second, and these can be projected about 2 or 3 meters from the apparatus in a space of about a cubic meter. So that you can actually see demonstration videos showing like a little swarm of butterflies just sort of flying through the middle of the air, created from these plasma flashpoints. Of course, this is creating a very powerful plasma explosion, and each little plasma dot creates a loud sound, a little crackling sound along with it. So if you're very close to one of these displays, it sounds like a constant crackling of static. But of course, if these lasers can be ramped up significantly, they could potentially project these images high up into the sky, creating giant advertisements way above a city, you know, and draining our vast power reserves into selling products in the sky.
Yep. Lonely ads in the sky.
You can run a city for a day, or you can run an ad for a day, but wherever the money goes, that's where the power goes. Oh, it's so true. It's so sad, but it's so true. Well, you know, get this.
It is. It's real sad.
How about a simulator that shows you what it's like to fly through a black hole? Yes, it has been done using Einstein's work on relativity and video game technology. That's true, right? Theoretical physicist Andrew J.S. Hamilton has applied all of Einstein's theories, work, and formulas to create an OpenGL engine 3D accelerated game that effectively renders images of light being bent according to actual laws of physics and demonstrate what it would be like to fly into a black hole. Now, they put so many calculations into this that it takes almost 90 hours of computer calculation to render each couple of frames. So it's not like you're going to be running this on your home computer and just watching it and having fun. But they did do a full rendering of this to produce a movie that will be visible on a TV program Nova. So if you happen to watch public broadcasting, this looks like it's going to be a very cool little clip of what it would be like to fly directly into it. They don't say when it's going to be on. It's only said that it's going to be aired sometime this year in a PBS Nova program about black holes. They didn't give the date, unfortunately. So we'll have to find the date and bring that to you next science show. Oh, so cool.
That is cool. I want to know. I want to know all about it.
Yep, and then our last science in the studio, well, we don't have much time to talk about it, but we did manage to grab a little bit of Aerogel, which is the world's lightest solid, and it only weighs 3 milligrams per cubic centimeter. And the reason it weighs so little is because it's mostly air. It's very undense. It uses a gelatin of silicon to create a block. Essentially, it's hard as glass, but it's mostly full of air, and it's just really light. Well, you know, that wraps up our science weekly program here on GameSHOUT Radio. Of course, we've got a whole lot more science coming up next week, and stay tuned for more right here on GameSHOUT Radio.
This is GameSHOUT Radio, the #1 talk game station in the world. Visit GameSHOUT.com for more info. GameSHOUT. GameSHOUT.